God, sorry, I'm just seeing here, this is an article you wrote in The Guardian yesterday. Last year, at a UN human rights conference in Geneva, this is last year, right? British officials robustly called out Rwanda on its record of extrajudicial killings, disappearances and torture. And once the asylum seekers deal was signed, the tone under the Johnson government then completely changed.
Yes, I mean, now Priti Patel refers to Rwanda as a place where refugees will prosper and thrive. And Boris Johnson says, oh, you know, it's one of the safest destinations in Africa, which is true for tourists. You know, how refugees who are fleeing repressive governments themselves and obviously don't want to live in police states, that's why they hit the road, how they're going to react to supposedly integrating in Rwanda is another question.
I mean, and the extent of the paranoia of this country, I mean, I'm reading your book at the moment, Do Not Disturb, and when you were writing that, you had to write it offline because you were afraid somebody might try and track your work. You had to hide your work at the end of every day in a laundry basket, wherever it might be, wherever you were writing at the time.
I became paranoid because everyone I was speaking to was so frightened of the government. And we know that Rwanda has been a customer of this Israeli company called NSO that sells Pegasus spyware. And it uses this spyware to eavesdrop on government officials in South Africa, Uganda, Congo, all its neighbouring countries. So, yeah, I became very, very paranoid myself when I was writing the book.
I'm just looking for the Telegraph here because there's this very powerful image of Prince Charles this morning. We've been showing it a little bit earlier in front of all of these human skulls.
Yes.
And they will be confronted during this Commonwealth meeting, Chogm, as it's called, with some very tragic memories of what happened during the genocide in the 90s. What will they see, though, of the reality of Kigali? I mean, are they going to see the real Rwanda during this conference?
Well, everyone who goes to Rwanda on an official visit gets taken to the Genocide Memorial, and that's what Prince Charles was doing yesterday. And it is really shocking. There were 250,000 bodies there, victims of the 1994 genocide. Their bones have been collecting there. But the trouble is that this is used by the regime as sort of like, this is why we do what we do. This is why we're not necessarily a liberal democracy, because, you know, our Tutsi minority continue to be in danger. But this is used to justify all sorts of repressive practices, including the fact that anyone who's a member of an opposition party is not able to campaign for the opposition. And 16 opposition activists, for example, are in jail now at the moment, alongside a whole host of sort of citizens journalists. So that's the side that you're not going to see. The opposition isn't getting a look in. You know, the opposition leader, Victoire Ingabire, hasn't been involved in any of the Commonwealth events.